elections headquarters in Renton. We're here today. We observed some of the counting and the processing of ballots going on inside this building. In fact, we ran into the elections administrator for the county, who is in King County independently elected of the county auditor. King County is the only county like that. And she actually showed us around a bit, let us watch some of the processing of ballots. What we're watching particularly here in King County is the special election for the state Senate position in the 5th legislative district, where the candidate we support, Chad Magendas, is running behind, but we expect that he will get a boost in later ballots based on our ballot harvesting and get out the vote efforts, which were kind of designed to be back-ended. That is, the ballots that we harvest and the ballots that are cast because we encourage them with our get out the vote efforts do tend to be delivered election day or close to election day, which means in our state system, they don't get counted until a couple of days after election day. So if you vote, if you drop your ballot off on election day, it's often not counted until a couple days later. Today is Thursday of election week. Your ballot may not be counted till today or even tomorrow, Friday of election week. So we watched that process. We saw that it is proceeding here. We're hoping that Chad Magendas running for the state Senate is going to make up some of the trailing in those later ballots as they get processed and counted. It is a secure process, and it's very well managed and regimented. For those of you who are concerned about anomalies and problems in the election process, it doesn't often happen here. By the time ballots get here to be counted, the process of counting them is fairly transparent and straightforward. Our concern is what happens upstream of that before the ballots get to the processing center. And in the case of that state Senate special election in the 5th, we're concerned that there is a significant voter turnout problem. At least there has been with the early ballots counted. We're seeing numbers that trail even the primary several months ago in August. So the November general election numbers in that race are behind where the numbers of people voting were in the primary. Now that's unusual. Almost always a primary, which happens in our state in August, will have a lower vote total than the general election, the one that really counts for who gets elected. It's unusual that the voter turnout in a primary would be higher than the voter turnout in the general election, the one that is the final determinant of who gets elected. But right now, that's what we're looking at in this race in Ledge District 5 for Chad Magendas. So we're watching it carefully. We hope that the late ballots not only increase overall voter turnout, but particularly increase votes for Chad Magendas, which we expect they will, but we're watching it day by day. This is an ongoing process of us refining how we get out the vote and use ballot harvesting to increase voter participation for Republican candidates and conservative candidates. So we want to make sure that in that upstream portion of an election, that we generate enough votes and get out the vote and harvest the vote if necessary, so that we are producing voter turnout, higher voter turnout, more participation, so that by the time the ballots get to the election center to be processed, we have enough votes that rigging the election or manipulating it isn't effective. They can't do it. You'll remember last year when President Trump was running for re-election, which he eventually got, he used the term too big to rig. The best way to prevent any monkey business in election is increase turnout so that the victory margin of the conservative Republican candidate is so great that monkeying with some of the mechanics won't change the outcome. Now, this is a process that we're just perfecting. And at the WAGOP, we will continue to perfect over time, over the next couple of cycles. But watch what happens with Chad Magandaz's special election for that state Senate position. Whether he wins or loses, we want to see a sort of kick at the end of the processing cycle, at the end of the vote counting, in his favor. Hopefully, it'll be enough of a kick to give him 50% plus one and he wins. But whatever happens, we want to see that kick, that increase in voter turnout, and particularly votes for our candidate at the end of the processing cycle. That's the concept, and we're continuing to work on it all around the state. You're beginning to see some media coverage of our program for supporting school board candidates, conservative school board candidates around the state. We didn't get them all this time. We didn't have quite as good a batting average as we had 2 years ago when we started the program, but we're still getting some 40 plus, maybe 50 conservative school board members elected in different school districts around the state. So that is a program we are committed to continuing to expand. We won't be getting 90% success as we got the first year, as we're doing more, as we're expanding the number of candidates we support. But every time we do it, if we can add 50 or 60 or 80 new conservative school board members around the state, that's a major win for the state and for the kids, for students in our public school system. So I consider that program a win, even if our overall batting average becomes something more like a Major League Baseball player. And lastly, I want to say there is hope for transparency and integrity in our elections with the recent announcement from the Assistant Attorney General, Harmeet Dillon. This is federal Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, who has said that she intends to file a legal action, a lawsuit against the state of Washington for withholding voter roll information from the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice has requested under federal law that Washington State hand over copies of its voter databases for the Department of Justice to review. The state of Washington, now this is not King County, this is the state of Washington, so it's the Secretary of State's office, Mr. Steve Hobbs, has been playing games and resisting handing over that information, which by federal law, the U.S. Department of Justice is allowed to request, demand really. They're trying to make the argument, Hobbs and Ferguson and some of the others are arguing they're protecting privacy of voters in Washington. That's a nonsense argument. The federal law already anticipates privacy protection within the demand that the Department of Justice has made. So if they keep mucking around, Harmeet Dillon is ready to file that lawsuit. And I think in the end, in that process, we will get more transparency and more integrity restored in our elections here in Washington State. That, of course, has to do with registered voters. And don't forget our initiative, IL26-126, which is still out gathering signatures, and we need more signatures. That would also strengthen Washington state law on voter integrity and voter ID. But when you think of elections and election integrity, remember, by the time the ballots get here to be processed, or in your county, to the auditor's office or the elections office to be processed, the processing, the counting is somewhat transparent. We're not like other states. What we need to work on is the upstream portion, where voters register and where ballots are sent out and filled out. That's the part we need to watch and improve. Watch the Chad Magandaz special election in the 5th Legislative District, and let's see if we get that kick in the last days of the counting. That's it for now. It's starting to pick up the rain here in Renton a little bit. I'll talk to you again soon, but until then, be well and stay strong.